The Pottery Studio by the river. In a quiet valley between gentle hills, there flowed a river. The river was old and patient, carving its path through the land for thousands of years. Along its banks grew willow trees, their branches hanging low to touch the water. Wildflowers bloomed in the meadows. Birds nested in the reeds. Near a bend in the river, where the water flowed slow and deep, stood an old stone building. It had been many things over the years: a mill, a workshop, a storage house. Now it sat empty, its windows broken, its roof sagging, its walls covered in vines. In the nearby village lived a woman named Isabel. She was 38 years old and worked as an accountant in a small office in town. Every day was the same. Wake up, go to work, sit at a desk with numbers and spreadsheets, go home, eat dinner, watch television, sleep. She had done this for 15 years. Isabel felt trapped. The work bored her. The routine suffocated her. She had no passion, no excitement, no sense that her life meant anything. She made enough money to live comfortably, but comfort wasn't enough. Something essential was missing. She didn't know what that something was. She only knew that when she looked at her life, she felt empty, like she was going through the motions, like she was sleepwalking through days that all looked the same. One Saturday in late spring, Isabel decided to take a walk. She needed to get out of her small apartment, to move her body, to think. She walked out of the village and into the countryside, following a path she had never taken before. The path led along the river. Isabel walked slowly, watching the water flow, listening to birdsong, breathing the fresh air. The simple beauty of the natural world began to calm her restless mind. After about an hour of walking, she came to the bend in the river where the old stone building stood. She had never noticed it before, though she must have driven past it many times. It sat back from the road, half hidden by trees. Something about the building called to her. Isabel left the path and walked closer. The building was larger than it had looked from a distance, 2 stories tall, built of gray river stone, solid despite its age and neglect. She walked around it, peering through broken windows. Inside, she could see a large open space on the ground floor, smaller rooms upstairs. Sunlight streamed through holes in the roof, creating patterns of light and shadow on the dusty floor. The building felt peaceful. Despite being abandoned and falling apart, it didn't feel sad or dead. It felt patient, like it was waiting for something, for someone. Isabel found herself imagining what the building could become. Not a house, it was too big for that. Not an office, that would be wrong. Something creative, something beautiful, something with purpose. An idea began to form in her mind. A wild, impossible idea. What if she bought this building? What if she restored it? What if she turned it into something? But what? Isabel wasn't artistic. She had no creative skills. What would she do with a building like this? She sat on a large flat stone near the river and watched the water flow. The river seemed to have answers that she couldn't quite hear. It whispered and murmured, patient and eternal. As Isabel sat there, her mind surprisingly quiet, she noticed the riverbank, the clay. There was clay everywhere along this stretch of river, smooth gray clay that the water exposed, that children sometimes use to make rough sculptures. Isabel reached down and picked up a handful. It was cool and smooth, heavy and dense. She squeezed it. It held the impression of her fingers perfectly. Without thinking, without planning, Isabel began to shape the clay, just playing like a child might. She rolled it into a ball, then flattened it. She made a simple bowl shape, pressing her thumbs into the center, building up the sides. The bowl was crude, uneven, would never hold water, but making it felt good. The clay felt good in her hands. The simple act of shaping felt good. For the first time in weeks, maybe years, Isabel felt present, not thinking about the past or worrying about the future, just here, now, making something with her hands. She stayed by the river for hours, playing with clay, making shapes, destroying them, making new ones. She lost track of time completely. When she finally looked up, the sun was setting, painting the sky orange and pink. Isabel stood up, her pants muddy, her hands covered in dried clay. She looked at the old building, then at the river, then at the rough clay bowl she had made. An impossible idea became slightly less impossible. What if she learned pottery? What if she restored this building and turned it into a pottery studio? What if she left her boring job and did something completely different with her life? The idea was crazy. She knew nothing about pottery. She knew nothing about restoring buildings. She had a stable job, a comfortable life. Why would she risk all that? But as Isabel walked home in the gathering darkness, the idea wouldn't leave her. It grew stronger with each step. By the time she reached her apartment, she had made a decision. She would do it. She would take the risk. She would try to create a different kind of life. The next morning, Isabel woke with a sense of purpose she hadn't felt in years. She made coffee and sat at her small kitchen table with a notebook. She began to make lists. Things to learn: pottery, building restoration, business basics, how to teach if she wanted to offer classes eventually. Things to find out: who owned the building, how much it would cost, what permits she would need, where she could learn pottery. Things to do: talk to her boss about leaving her job, figure out her finances, start researching everything. The lists were long and intimidating, but Isabel didn't feel intimidated. She felt excited. For the first time in years, she had something to look forward to, something to work toward. She spent the day researching online. She found out that the old building by the river was owned by the village. It had been abandoned for over 20 years. The village had tried to sell it several times but found no buyers. It needed too much work, was too far from town, had no obvious use. Isabel called the village office on Monday morning. She spoke to a woman named Mrs. Chen, who handled property matters. "I'm interested in the old mill building by the river," Isabel said. "The one on Riverside Road. Is it still for sale?" Mrs. Chen sounded surprised. "Yes, it's available, but I should warn you it's in very poor condition. It would need extensive restoration." "I understand. Can I schedule a time to view it properly?" They arranged to meet that weekend. Mrs. Chen would bring keys and show Isabel through the building officially. In the meantime, Isabel researched pottery classes. She found a studio in the city, about an hour away by train. They offered beginner classes on Tuesday evenings and Saturday mornings. Isabel signed up for both. If she was going to do this, she needed to learn the craft properly. Her first class was on Tuesday evening. Isabel took the train after work, arriving at the studio nervous and uncertain. The studio was in an old warehouse, warm and cluttered and smelling of clay and minerals. The teacher was a woman named Ruth, perhaps 60 years old, with gray hair pulled back and hands stained permanently with clay. She welcomed Isabel warmly. "Have you worked with clay before?" Ruth asked. "Just playing by a river once," Isabel admitted. "I have no real experience." "That's fine," Ruth said. "Everyone starts somewhere. The important thing is that you're here, that you want to learn." There were 6 other students in the beginner class. Ruth started by explaining the basics: types of clay, how to center clay on the wheel, basic hand-building techniques. Then she gave everyone clay and let them begin. Isabel sat at a wheel with a lump of clay. Ruth showed her how to throw it onto the center of the wheel, how to wet her hands, how to start the wheel spinning. Then she pressed her hands around the clay, trying to center it. It was harder than it looked. The clay wobbled and jumped. Isabel couldn't get it centered. She tried again and again, following Ruth's patient instructions. Finally, after many attempts, she felt the clay become smooth under her hands. It was centered, spinning perfectly, rising up as she pulled gently with her fingers. "That's it," Ruth said from behind her. "Feel that? That's the clay telling you it's ready. Now you can shape it." Isabel tried to make a simple bowl. It was clumsy and uneven, but it was hers. She had made it. When the class ended and she had to leave it to dry, she felt reluctant to go. She wanted to keep working, keep learning. On the train home, Isabel's hands were tired and her back ached from hunching over the wheel, but she felt alive, truly alive, maybe for the first time in years. The clay had spoken to her in a language beyond words. It had shown her what her hands could do, what she could create. She knew then with absolute certainty that this was right. This was what had been missing from her life, the act of making, of creating something tangible and real, of using her hands and her heart instead of just her mind. Saturday came. Isabel met Mrs. Chen at the old building. In daylight, with someone who had keys, they could explore properly. Mrs. Chen unlocked the heavy wooden door and they stepped inside. The ground floor was a single large room with a high ceiling. There were old support beams, a large fireplace at one end, windows on 3 sides letting in generous light. Despite the dust and damage, the bones of the building were good. Strong stone walls, solid floor, good space. Upstairs were several smaller rooms that had probably been living quarters when the building was a working mill. These could be storage or a small apartment or teaching spaces. The roof above needed work. There were visible holes and water damage. "It needs a lot of repair," Mrs. Chen said, somewhat apologetically. "The roof, the windows, the plumbing and electricity probably costs more to fix than the building is worth." "How much is the village asking for it?" Isabel asked. Mrs. Chen named a price that was surprisingly low, less than Isabel had in savings. The village just wanted someone to take the building, to restore it, to give it new purpose. They would rather sell it cheaply than let it continue deteriorating. "I'll take it," Isabel said. Mrs. Chen looked surprised. "Don't you want to think about it? Have an inspector look at it, get estimates for repairs?" I should do those things, Isabel admitted, but I already know my answer. This is the right place. I can feel it. She made an offer, slightly below the asking price. Mrs. Chen said she would present it to the village council. Isabel would hear back within a week. That week felt endless. Isabel went to work, sat at her desk with numbers, but her mind was always on the building, on clay, on the new life she was trying to create. She went to her Saturday pottery class. She was getting better at centering clay, at pulling up walls, at forming simple shapes. Ruth encouraged her. You have good hands, sensitive but strong. That's important for pottery. But more than that, you have patience. Many beginners get frustrated, want instant results. You accept the process. That's the real skill. On Friday, Mrs. Chen called. The village council had accepted Isabel's offer. The building was hers if she wanted it. They would need to finalize paperwork, but it was essentially done. Isabel hung up the phone and sat in stunned silence. She had just bought a building, a broken, neglected building that would require enormous work to restore. What had she done? But beneath the shock was excitement, joy even. She had committed. There was no going back now. She would have to see this through. Isabel gave notice at her job. Her boss was shocked. She had been a reliable employee for 15 years. Her coworkers thought she was crazy, giving up a secure job to, what, make pottery in a ruined building by a river? It's a midlife crisis, one coworker said sympathetically. You'll come back when you realize how hard it is. But Isabel wasn't having a crisis. She was having an awakening. For the first time, she was choosing what she truly wanted instead of what seemed safe or sensible. She worked through her notice period, saved every penny, planned her next steps. She hired a contractor to assess the building and give estimates for repairs. She applied for permits. She researched pottery equipment, wheels, kilns, tools, clay suppliers. The contractor, a man named Jim, who had been doing restoration work for 30 years, walked through the building with Isabel. It's solid, he said, good stone construction, but it needs everything. New roof, new windows, electrical wiring, plumbing, heating system. I could do the work, but it won't be cheap. He gave her an estimate. Isabel looked at the number and felt her stomach drop. It was more than she had expected. It would take almost all her savings to buy the building and do the essential repairs. There would be little left for equipment or living expenses. Can we do it in phases? Isabel asked. Do the most critical repairs first, then the rest over time as I can afford it? Jim thought about this. We could do that. Roof first, that's essential. Then windows and basic utilities. The finishing work can wait. You'd have a functional space, just not pretty. Functional is fine, Isabel said. I can make it pretty gradually. They agreed on a plan. Jim would start work as soon as Isabel owned the building officially. The essential repairs would take about 3 months. Isabel's last day at her accounting job arrived. Her coworkers threw a small party, gave her a card and a gift certificate. They wished her luck, though most clearly thought she would fail and come back. I hope your pottery thing works out, her boss said, shaking her hand. But you're always welcome to return if you need to. I'll keep your file active. Isabel thanked him, but knew she wouldn't be back. This wasn't a sabbatical or an experiment. This was a complete change of direction, a total transformation of her life. The next day, she woke up with no job to go to. It felt strange and liberating. She made coffee, ate a slow breakfast, then drove to the building that was now hers. Her building, her pottery studio. Jim and his crew were already there, assessing the roof damage, making plans. Isabel didn't have much to do. This was their expertise. But she wanted to be present, to witness the transformation beginning. She walked down to the river while they worked. She sat on the same stone where she had first played with clay. The river flowed as it always had, patient and eternal. The clay was still there, waiting. Isabel scooped up a handful and began to work it. She was better now after weeks of classes. Her hands knew what to do. She made a small bowl, simple but more refined than her first attempt. She looked at the bowl, at the river, at the building where men were removing the old damaged roof. Her life was in transition, being torn down and rebuilt like the building. It was frightening but necessary. The old had to go to make room for the new. Over the following weeks, Isabel watched the building transform. The new roof went on, solid and weatherproof. New windows were installed, letting in light while keeping out weather. Electricity was wired throughout. A basic bathroom and small kitchen were added. The ground floor remained one large open space, perfect for a pottery studio. Isabel already imagined where the wheels would go, where the kiln would sit, where students might work if she eventually taught classes. Upstairs, one room was turned into a simple apartment for Isabel. She didn't need much: a bed, a chair, a small kitchen area, a bathroom. She would live in the building, be present with her work, save money on rent. While the construction happened, Isabel continued her pottery classes twice a week. She was progressing quickly. Ruth said she was a natural, that she had an instinct for form and balance. "You should consider making this more than a hobby," Ruth said one evening. "You have real talent." "That's the plan," Isabel said. "I'm turning an old building by a river into a pottery studio. I'm going to make and sell pottery, maybe teach eventually." Ruth looked delighted. "That's wonderful. If you need any advice, any help getting started, just ask. I've been doing this for 40 years. I've made every mistake there is to make. I can save you from some of them." Isabel accepted gratefully. Ruth became not just a teacher, but a mentor. She advised Isabel on what equipment to buy, where to get good clay, how to price work, how to find customers. She shared the practical knowledge that only comes from years of experience. 3 months after construction began, the building was ready. Not finished, there was still cosmetic work to do, but functional. Isabel could move in, could set up her studio, could begin. She threw a small party to celebrate. Just a few friends, Ruth and some people from her pottery class, Jim and his crew. They walked through the transformed building, admiring the work. "You've created something special here," Ruth said, looking around the large open studio space. "I can feel it. This place has good energy. It wants to be creative, wants to make beautiful things." Isabel felt it too. The building had welcomed her transformation of it. It seemed happy to have purpose again, to be loved and cared for instead of neglected. After everyone left, Isabel stood alone in her new studio. The space was empty except for a few boxes of her belongings. Tomorrow she would start filling it, unpacking equipment, setting up wheels, organizing tools. Tomorrow, her new life would truly begin. But tonight, She just stood in the quiet space and felt grateful. Grateful for the courage to change. Grateful for this building that had called to her. Grateful for the river and the clay and the possibilities ahead. She walked outside and down to the riverbank. The moon was rising, nearly full, casting silver light on the water. Isabel scooped up clay and held it in her hands. This was her material now, her medium. This was what she would work with, what she would shape into beauty. She looked at the building, light glowing from the windows she had left on. Her home, her studio, her dream made real. "Thank you," she whispered, to the river, to the building, to whatever force had called her to this place and this work. "I won't waste this gift. I'll create. I'll make beauty. I'll share this with others." The river murmured its response, patient and eternal, flowing through the moonlit night. Isabel spent her first weeks in the studio setting up and learning. She had ordered 2 pottery wheels, a small electric kiln, shelves, tools, and a ton of clay. Everything arrived gradually, and she assembled it piece by piece, creating her workspace. The physical work was hard but satisfying. Installing shelves, moving heavy equipment, organizing tools. Isabel's body grew stronger. She could feel muscles developing in her arms and back. She was using her body in new ways, and it felt good. But setting up the studio was the easy part. The real challenge was mastering pottery. Isabel practiced every day, spending hours at the wheel. She made countless bowls, plates, cups, vases. Most were imperfect, wobbly, uneven, poorly balanced. She destroyed many of them, recycling the clay to try again. But gradually, slowly, she improved. Her hands learned the feel of centered clay. Her fingers learned how much pressure to apply. Her mind learned to focus completely on the work, to enter a state of flow where time disappeared and only the clay and her hands existed. Ruth visited often, offering guidance and encouragement. She taught Isabel about glazes and firing, about different clay bodies and their properties, about how to fix common problems. "Pottery is about patience," Ruth said one afternoon as they worked together. "You can't rush clay. It has its own timeline. You work with it wet, but then you wait for it to dry. You fire it, but that takes hours. You glaze it, then fire again. Everything takes time." Modern people struggle with this. They want instant results, but clay teaches you to slow down, to wait, to trust the process. Isabel understood this. Her old life had been about speed and efficiency. Get things done fast, meet deadlines, maximize productivity. But pottery was different. You couldn't maximize productivity with clay. You had to honor its nature, work at its pace. This slower rhythm began to change Isabel. She stopped rushing through her days. She learned to work steadily but without urgency. She learned to enjoy the process itself, not just the finished product. She also learned to accept imperfection. Many of her pieces had flaws, a crack, a wobble, an uneven rim. In her old life, she would have considered these failures, but Ruth taught her differently. "Wabi-sabi," Ruth said, using a Japanese term. "The beauty of imperfection. The recognition that nothing is perfect, and that's okay. In fact, small imperfections can make a piece more interesting, more human. Don't chase perfect, chase honest. Make pieces that show the hand of the maker. Isabel embraced this philosophy. She stopped destroying every flawed piece. She learned to see beauty in the wobbles and variations, to appreciate the marks left by her fingers, to value authenticity over perfection. As autumn arrived, Isabel had made enough pieces that she felt ready to fire them. She loaded her kiln carefully, following Ruth's instructions about spacing and temperature. She set the kiln to fire overnight. The next morning, Isabel opened the kiln with trembling hands. This was the moment of truth. Would her pieces survive? Would they be beautiful? Most had survived. A few had cracked or warped, but the majority were intact. Isabel lifted them out one by one, examining them in daylight. They were simple pieces, bowls and cups mostly, but they were hers. She had made them with her own hands from river clay. She ran her fingers over their surfaces. They were smooth and solid, transformed by fire from soft clay into hard ceramic. It felt like magic. It was magic, in a way, the ancient magic of transforming earth into useful objects. Isabel glazed the pieces, applying color and shine. She chose natural tones, blues and greens like the river, browns and grays like the clay, cream and white like foam on water. Nothing bright or garish, just colors that felt true to the source. She fired the glazed pieces and waited. When she opened the kiln this time and saw the finished work, glossy, colorful, complete, she felt tears in her eyes. She had done this. From raw clay to finished pottery, every step had been her work. The pieces weren't perfect. Some glazes had run or pooled, some colors weren't quite what she had intended, but they were beautiful in their imperfection. They were honest and handmade and real. Isabel arranged the finished pieces on a shelf in her studio, her first collection, the beginning of her new life as a potter. Winter came to the valley. Snow fell softly, covering the meadows and hills in white. The river flowed dark against the snow, never freezing, always moving. The old stone building stayed warm. Isabel had installed a good heating system, and the thick walls held heat well. Isabel loved winter in her studio. The contrast between cold outside and warm inside made the space feel even more like sanctuary. She would work at her wheel for hours, the only sounds the whir of the wheel, the squish of wet clay, the occasional pop and hiss from the wood stove she'd added for atmosphere. She was making more complex pieces now, larger bowls, pitchers, serving platters. Her skills had improved dramatically. Ruth said she was ready to start selling her work. "You need to get it out into the world," Ruth encouraged. "Keep some for yourself, but share the rest. People need beautiful, handmade things. You have something to offer." Isabel set up a small display in her studio window facing the road. She put a sign out front, "Handmade Pottery, open weekends." She didn't expect many customers. The studio was far from town, on a road that wasn't heavily traveled. But people came. Not many at first, just a few curious locals who had noticed the renovated building. But word spread. People who bought pieces told their friends. A local cafe owner bought a set of mugs and displayed them prominently. Isabel's work had a distinctive style, simple forms, natural colors, a slight roughness that showed the maker's hand. People responded to the authenticity, the connection to the local river clay, the story of the woman who had left her career to make pottery. A local newspaper sent a reporter to interview Isabel. The resulting article, From Numbers to Clay, Local Woman Follows Her Dream, brought more visitors. People would drive out specifically to visit the studio, to meet Isabel, to buy her pottery. Isabel was careful not to let success change her approach. She kept her prices modest, wanting her work to be accessible. She didn't try to mass produce or speed up her process. She made what she could make well, at the pace that felt right. The rhythm of her days was satisfying. Wake early, make coffee, work at the wheel for several hours. Break for lunch, often just simple food, soup and bread, cheese and fruit. More work in the afternoon. In the evenings, she would read or experiment with new glazes, or simply sit by the window, watching the river. Some days, she wouldn't see another person. In her old life, this would have felt lonely, but now it felt peaceful. She had her work, her river, her clay. That was enough. On weekends when the studio was open, she enjoyed talking to visitors. She would explain her process, show them how the wheel worked, let children try shaping clay. She was becoming part of the community in a new way, not as an accountant, but as an artist, a craftsperson, someone who made beautiful things. One cold December afternoon, a woman came into the studio with 3 children. They looked at Isabel's pottery with wide eyes, asking questions about how everything was made. "Can you teach us?" the oldest child, a girl about 10, asked. "Can you show us how to make pottery?" Isabel hesitated. She had thought about teaching eventually, but hadn't felt ready. But looking at the children's eager faces, she found herself saying yes. "I can teach you some basics. Come back next Saturday. Bring your parents if they want to learn too. We'll play with clay together." That Saturday, the family returned. Isabel had set up a work area with clay and simple tools. She showed them hand-building techniques, rolling coils, making pinch pots, attaching pieces together. The children were naturals, unself-conscious and creative. The parents were more hesitant, but eventually relaxed into the work. They spent 2 hours creating. The pieces the children made were crude but charming: lopsided bowls, odd-shaped animals, abstract sculptures. Everyone was covered in clay and smiling. "This was wonderful," the mother said as they prepared to leave. "The kids loved it. Do you do regular classes? We'd come every week if you did." Isabel hadn't planned to offer regular classes, but why not? She had the space, she enjoyed teaching, it would bring in additional income and share the craft with others. "I could start classes in the new year," Isabel said. "Maybe Saturday mornings for families, Sunday afternoons for adults? Would that work?" It would. The family signed up immediately and spread the word. By January, Isabel had a waiting list for her first classes. Teaching forced Isabel to articulate what she knew, to break down her intuitive understanding into steps others could follow. It made her a better potter herself. Explaining centering clay to a beginner made her more conscious of how she did it, helped her refine her own technique. The classes also brought life and energy to the studio. The sound of multiple wheels spinning, multiple people working with clay, conversations and laughter, it filled the space with warmth and community. Isabel discovered she loved teaching, not just the craft itself, but the philosophy behind it. She would talk about patience, about accepting imperfection, about the satisfaction of making something with your hands. She was teaching more than pottery. She was teaching a way of being present, of creating, of finding meaning in work. Some students came just once or twice. Others became regulars, coming week after week, steadily improving. Isabel watched their transformation, arriving stressed and distracted, gradually becoming calmer and more focused as they worked with clay. One regular student was a man named Peter, perhaps 50 years old, who worked a high-pressure job in the city. He would drive an hour each way to come to class every Sunday. "This is the only time all week I feel peaceful," he told Isabel. "Everything else is rush and stress and demand. But here, working with clay, I can slow down. I can just be. It's like therapy, but better." Isabel understood completely. Clay had done the same for her. It had given her a way to be present, to create, to find peace. Now she was sharing that gift with others. Spring came to the valley. The meadows filled with wildflowers, purple lupines, yellow buttercups, white daisies. The willow trees budded and leafed. Baby ducks appeared on the river, following their mothers in neat lines. Isabel had been living in the studio for almost a year now. It felt like a lifetime and like yesterday at the same time. She could barely remember her old life. The office, the desk, the spreadsheets, that felt like someone else's life, not hers. She had become a true potter now. Her hands were permanently stained with clay. Her fingernails always had clay under them. Her back had a slight ache from bending over the wheel. These were badges of honor, signs of real work, of craft pursued seriously. Her pottery had evolved too. She was making larger, more ambitious pieces, big serving bowls, tall vases, sculptural forms. She was experimenting with different techniques, carving patterns into leather-hard clay, using multiple glazes on one piece, incorporating river stones into her work. She had also started using clay from the river more intentionally. She would dig it herself, process it, mix it with commercial clay. The river clay gave her work a unique quality, a direct connection to this specific place. Ruth visited on a warm April afternoon. She walked through the studio, examining Isabel's recent work, watching her teach a class. Afterward, over tea in Isabel's small upstairs apartment, Ruth spoke. "You've become a real potter," she said. "Not just someone who makes pottery, but someone who lives it. This is your life now, fully integrated. I'm proud of you." "I learned from you," Isabel said. "You taught me the craft, but also the mindset, the patience, the acceptance, the focus on process over product." "I taught you techniques," Ruth corrected. "But the rest, the philosophy, the dedication, that came from you. You had it in you all along. You just needed to find the right work to bring it out." They talked about Isabel's future plans. Her work was selling well. Her classes were full. She was making enough to support herself, though not luxuriously. She was content, but also curious about what might come next. "Have you thought about doing shows?" Ruth asked. "Art fairs, craft markets? It would get your work to more people." Isabel had thought about it, but felt hesitant. "I like working here, in this quiet place. The idea of packing up everything, traveling to fairs, being around crowds, it doesn't appeal to me." "That's fair," Ruth said. "Not every artist wants that." Some prefer the quiet studio life, but consider it for the future. There are smaller local fairs that might suit you better, and it's a way to connect with other potters, to be part of the wider craft community. After Ruth left, Isabel thought about this. She was happy with her quiet life, but perhaps she was being too isolated. Maybe it would be good to connect more with other makers, to learn what they were doing, to be inspired by different approaches. She researched local craft fairs and found one happening in the nearby city in June. It was small, juried, focused on quality handwork. Isabel applied and was accepted. Preparing for the fair forced Isabel to think about her work differently. She needed to make enough pieces to fill a booth. She needed to price things clearly. She needed to present her work attractively. She needed to be able to talk about it to strangers all day. In the weeks leading up to the fair, Isabel worked harder than she had since starting the studio. She made pots every day, fired constantly, glazed and fired again. She designed simple but attractive packaging. She created business cards and a small brochure explaining her work and process. The fair was a 3-day weekend event. Isabel loaded her car with carefully packed pottery and drove to the city. She set up her booth, a simple table with a white cloth, her pieces arranged by type and color. She hung a sign with her studio name, Riverside Pottery, handmade by the river. The fair opened. People streamed in, hundreds of them, browsing booth after booth of handmade items. Isabel felt overwhelmed at first. So many people, so much noise, such different energy from her quiet studio. But gradually she relaxed. People responded well to her work. They picked up her pieces, felt their weight and texture, asked about her process. Many made purchases. By the end of the first day, Isabel had sold more than she expected. She also met other potters. During slow moments, she would walk around and talk to them. They shared tips about techniques, favorite suppliers, challenges they faced. Isabel realized Ruth had been right. Being part of a community of makers was valuable. She had been working in isolation, not realizing what she was missing. One potter, a woman named Anne who had been making pottery for 20 years, invited Isabel to join a regional potters guild. "We meet monthly," Anne explained, "share techniques, critique each other's work, organize group shows. It's supportive, not competitive. You'd be welcome." Isabel accepted gratefully. She had found her people, not in the corporate world, not in the village, but among fellow craftspeople who understood the life she had chosen. The fair was exhausting, but successful. Isabel sold well, made contacts, felt energized by being part of something larger. She drove home Sunday night tired but happy, already thinking about the next fair, the next opportunity to share her work. When she arrived back at the studio, she stood for a moment looking at the building in the moonlight. Her home, her sanctuary, but not a prison or an escape, just her base, her center, the place she returned to between ventures into the wider world. She had found balance, quiet work at the studio most of the time, occasional ventures out to connect and share. This felt sustainable, felt right. As summer arrived, the Pottery studio became a gathering place. Isabel's classes attracted more students. People would linger after class, talking, sharing tea, watching the river. An informal community formed around the studio. Isabel started hosting open studio days once a month. People could drop in, watch her work, try the wheel themselves, browse her finished pieces. These days drew locals and tourists, creating a steady stream of visitors and sales. One regular visitor was an elderly man named Robert, who lived in the village. He had been a carpenter before retiring and appreciated handmade work. He would come to the studio and just sit, watching Isabel work, occasionally offering to help with tasks that needed woodworking skills. "I miss making things," Robert told Isabel one afternoon. "I built furniture for 50 years. My hands know what to do, but they're old now, too shaky for fine work. But I can still do simple things. Let me help when you need it." Isabel accepted gratefully. Robert built her shelves, repaired her work tables, constructed a new storage system for clay. In exchange, Isabel taught him simple hand-building techniques he could do despite his shaky hands. They became friends, two makers supporting each other. Another regular was a young woman named Sophie who was studying art in the city but came to the valley on weekends. She was a talented painter, and she and Isabel would exchange ideas about form, color, and composition. Sophie started incorporating pottery into her art installations, using Isabel's pieces or making simple forms herself. The studio attracted artists and craftspeople, a weaver, a woodworker, a jeweler. They would visit, drawn by the creative energy of the place. Some collaborated with Isabel. The weaver made a series of wall hangings that incorporated ceramic elements Isabel created. The woodworker made beautiful stands for displaying her larger pots. Isabel hadn't set out to create a community, but one had formed naturally. The studio was a magnet for creative people, for those who valued making, for those seeking slower, more intentional ways of living. The village itself began to change. Artists were moving in, attracted by cheap property and beautiful scenery. Empty buildings were being converted to studios and galleries. A small cafe opened, showcasing local art. The village was coming alive again after years of decline. Isabel's studio was part of this renaissance. She had shown that you could make a living through craft, could create a meaningful life outside conventional career paths. Others followed her example, each in their own way. The local government noticed. They approached Isabel about creating a corridor, a series of studios and galleries along the river road. They offered grants to help more artists establish themselves in the area. Isabel became an unofficial advocate and mentor. When aspiring artists asked her advice, she shared what she had learned. When new studios opened, she visited and supported them. When the village wanted to organize an arts festival, she helped plan it. She was building more than a pottery studio. She was helping build a community of makers, a culture of creativity, an economy based on craft and beauty rather than just efficiency and profit. But Isabel was careful not to let these larger activities distract from her core work. She still spent most of her time at the wheel, making pots, teaching classes, refining her craft. The community work was supplementary, not primary. In late summer, a young woman named Maya came to the studio. She was 23, had just graduated from art school, was uncertain about her direction. She had seen Isabel's work at a fair and had been drawn to it. "Can I apprentice with you?" Maya asked. "I'll work for free, just for the chance to learn. I want to understand pottery, but also how you've built this life. You've done what I want to do, created meaningful work, built a life around making. I want to learn how." Isabel hesitated. She had never had an apprentice. Did she know enough to teach someone that intensively? Was she ready for that responsibility? But looking at Maya's eager face, seeing her own younger self, Isabel said yes. Maya moved into a small room in the village and came to the studio every day. Isabel taught her everything: clay preparation, throwing techniques, glazing, firing, studio maintenance, business basics. But she also taught the less tangible things: the mindset of a maker, the discipline required, the balance between creativity and practicality. Maya was a quick learner and hard worker. She would practice for hours, didn't complain about repetitive tasks, asked thoughtful questions. She absorbed not just techniques, but philosophy. "This is so different from art school," Maya said one afternoon. "There, everything was about being original, having a unique vision, making a statement. But here, you're teaching me about tradition, about respecting the material, about serving function as well as form. It's humbling in a good way." Isabel understood. "Both approaches have value," she said, "but I think craft, pottery, woodworking, weaving, keeps you grounded. You can't just impose your vision on clay. You have to work with it, respect its nature. That teaches humility and patience. Those are good qualities for any artist." Having Maya in the studio changed the rhythm. Isabel had to articulate her processes, explain her decisions, demonstrate carefully. This made her more conscious of her own work, helped her understand her craft more deeply. Maya also brought fresh energy and perspective. She would ask, "Why do you do it that way?" about things Isabel had stopped questioning. Sometimes Isabel had good reasons. Sometimes she realized she was just following habit. Maya's questions pushed her to reconsider, to experiment, to grow. They worked together through autumn and into winter. Maya progressed from basic forms to more complex work. Her throwing skills improved dramatically. Her aesthetic sense developed, influenced by Isabel, but also distinctly her own. By spring, Maya was ready to start showing her own work. Isabel encouraged her to apply to fairs and galleries. Maya was hesitant. Wasn't she just a beginner? "You've been working seriously for 8 months, Isabel said. You've made hundreds of pieces. You've developed real skill. You're ready. Not to be a master, but to be a working potter. That's enough." Maya applied and was accepted to several shows. She sold well. Gallery owners liked her work. It had a youthful freshness while showing solid technical skill. As Maya became more established, she and Isabel discussed the future. Maya wanted to set up her own studio eventually, but wasn't ready yet financially. "What if you stayed here?" Isabel suggested. "You could have part of the studio space, sell your own work, teach some classes. We'd share expenses and equipment. You'd have independence, but also support." Maya's face lit up. "Really? You'd be willing to do that?" "Why not?" Isabel said. "This building is too big for just me, and I like having you here. You push me to be better. We make each other better." They worked out an arrangement. Maya would pay modest rent, would have her own workspace and her own student slots, but they'd share the kiln and major equipment. It was a partnership, a collaboration. The studio expanded to accommodate 2 potters. They each had their own style, their own customers, but they complemented each other. Isabel's work was quieter, more traditional. Maya's was more adventurous, more colorful. Together, they offered a nice range. Isabel found she loved having a pottery partner. She had been alone for 2 years, which had been necessary, had allowed her to develop her own voice. But now she was ready for collaboration, for conversation, for shared purpose. 3 years had passed since Isabel had first seen the old building by the river. 3 years since she had picked up river clay and felt it call to her. 3 years since she had made the crazy decision to leave her stable career and become a potter. The studio was thriving. Isabel and Maya worked together, making pottery, teaching classes, selling their work. The building was fully restored now, beautiful and functional, warm and welcoming. The river still flowed beside it, patient and eternal. Isabel was 3011 now. She looked different than she had at 38. Her hair was longer, often held back with a clay-stained bandana. Her hands were strong and rough from work. Her face had more lines, but also more life. She looked like someone who worked with her hands, who lived close to nature, who had found her purpose. Her old coworkers wouldn't recognize her. That tired, stressed woman who had sat at a desk crunching numbers was gone. In her place was someone vital and present, someone who loved her work, someone who had built a life of meaning. Isabel still had moments of disbelief. Had she really done this? Left everything secure and familiar to pursue something so uncertain? It seemed crazy. It had been crazy. But it had also been the sanest thing she had ever done. Ruth visited on a spring afternoon. She was older now, in her mid-70s, thinking about slowing down. She walked through the studio, examining the work Isabel and Maya were producing. "You've surpassed me," Ruth said to Isabel.
Your work is more accomplished than mine ever was, and you've created something bigger than just making pots. You've built community, trained the next generation, helped revitalize this village. I'm proud of you." "I learned from you," Isabel said, as she had said before. "You showed me it was possible." "I showed you techniques," Ruth said, "but you did the hard part. You had the courage to change your life completely. Most people never do that. They dream about it, but they don't actually do it. You did. That takes real bravery." Ruth had news. She was closing her city studio, retiring from teaching. She wanted to donate her equipment, wheels, kiln, tools, to someone who would use it well. Would Isabel be interested? Isabel accepted gratefully. With Ruth's equipment, they could expand. More wheels meant more students. A larger kiln meant bigger or more numerous firings. It was a generous gift, a passing of the torch. They held a small ceremony when the equipment arrived. Several of Isabel's students came, plus local artists, plus Robert and other community members. Ruth spoke about her 50 years of pottery, about what the craft had taught her, about why she was happy to see her tools go to Isabel. Pottery connects us to the earth, to our hands, to the ancient tradition of making useful beauty, Ruth said. Isabel understands this. She'll carry it forward, teach others, keep the craft alive. That's all any of us can hope for, to pass along what we've learned, to keep the tradition flowing. After the ceremony, after everyone left, Isabel and Maya stood in the studio looking at the new equipment. They would rearrange the space to accommodate it, would figure out the optimal setup, but tonight they just stood in appreciation. "Thank you," Maya said, "for taking me on, teaching me, sharing all this. You changed my life." "You changed mine too," Isabel said. "Teaching you has made me better. Having you here has enriched everything." They stood together in comfortable silence, two potters, two makers, two women who had chosen craft over convention, who had built lives of purpose and meaning. The river flowed outside, constant and patient. The clay waited to be shaped. The work would continue tomorrow and the day after and the day after that. This was their life now, their chosen path, and it was good.
Seasons passed, years accumulated. The studio became an established part of the valley's landscape. People knew about riverside pottery, about the two women who made beautiful, functional pottery from local river clay. Isabel entered her mid-40s. She had been a potter for over 5 years now. It felt completely natural, like she had always done this work. Her old career was a dim memory, something that had happened to someone else in another lifetime. Her pottery had matured too. She had developed a distinctive style, simple forms, subtle glazes, a quality of quiet elegance. Her work was collected by people who appreciated handmade objects, who valued the story and intention behind each piece. She had also become known as a teacher. People came from far away to take workshops with her. She taught not just techniques, but philosophy, patience, presence, the value of working with your hands. Students often said her classes changed how they thought about work and life. Maya had grown too. Now in her late 20s, she had become a master potter in her own right. Her work was more adventurous than Isabel's. Bigger forms, brighter glazes, more sculptural elements. Together, their different styles complemented each other, offering customers variety while maintaining quality. The studio had taken on additional functions. It was a gathering place for the arts community. It hosted exhibitions, poetry readings, small concerts. The large open space with good acoustics and beautiful light was perfect for events. Isabel and Maya had also started a residency program. They would invite artists from other disciplines to stay for a month, using part of the studio space to create their own work while being surrounded by the pottery practice. A painter, a writer, a musician, each brought fresh energy and perspective. One summer resident was a documentary filmmaker named David. He wanted to make a film about traditional crafts, about people keeping old skills alive. He asked if he could film Isabel and Maya working. They agreed, though both felt slightly self-conscious at first, but David was respectful and unobtrusive. He would set up his camera and just film them working normally, throwing pots, teaching classes, firing the kiln, talking about their philosophy. The resulting documentary was beautiful. David captured not just the technical process, but the meditation of it, the rhythm, the way working with clay changed people. He interviewed students who talked about what pottery had done for them. He filmed the river and the clay and the studio in changing light. The film premiered at a documentary festival and won an award. It was shown on public television, reaching a wide audience. Afterward, Isabel and Maya received letters from people all over the country who had seen the film and been inspired. "I've been thinking about leaving my job and doing something meaningful," one letter said. "Your story gave me courage. If you could do it, maybe I can too."
I didn't know pottery could be so meditative, so profound, wrote another viewer. I'm signing up for a class near me. Thank you for showing me this possibility. Isabel was moved by these letters. She answered each one personally, encouraging people to pursue their creative longings, sharing advice about how to make the transition from conventional work to craft. She realized she had become what Ruth had been for her, a mentor, an example, someone showing that a different kind of life was possible. This felt like a responsibility, but also a privilege. The film's success brought more attention to the studio. More people visited, more students signed up, more galleries wanted to carry their work. Isabel and Maya had to decide how to handle growth while maintaining what made the studio special. They chose to expand slowly and carefully. They hired one assistant to help with the increased production needs. They added one more class session per week. They maintained their pricing rather than raising it significantly. They wanted to remain accessible, wanted their work to be attainable by regular people, not just collectors. "We're doing well enough," Isabel told Maya during one discussion about growth. "We don't need to maximize profit. We need to maintain quality and purpose. That's what matters." Maya agreed completely. Neither of them had gotten into pottery to become wealthy. They had gotten into it to make beautiful, useful objects, to teach, to live meaningful lives. They were accomplishing those goals. That was success enough.
Isabel turned 50. The studio threw a party. Students past and present, fellow artists, community members, Ruth, now in her 80s, but still sharp and engaged. They celebrated not just Isabel's birthday, but the 7 years of the studio's existence. 7 years. It amazed Isabel to think about it. In that time, she had transformed completely. She had gone from a burnt-out accountant to accomplished potter, from alone to part of a thriving creative community, from lost to found. At the party, people shared stories about how the studio had affected them. Students talked about what pottery classes had taught them about patience and presence. Local artists described how Isabel had welcomed and supported them. Parents spoke about how their children had loved learning to work with clay. One student, a woman named Lisa, who had been coming to classes for 3 years, spoke movingly. "I was going through a divorce when I first came here. I was angry and hurt and felt like my life was falling apart. Working with clay gave me something to focus on besides my pain. It taught me that destruction can lead to recreation, that I could shape something new from broken pieces. Isabel, you didn't just teach me pottery, you helped me heal." Isabel listened to these stories with gratitude and humility. She had just been doing what she loved, following her own path. She hadn't realized how much impact it would have on others. This was the real success, not the sales or the recognition, but these changed lives, these moments of healing and growth. After the party, Isabel sat alone in the studio looking at the gifts people had brought. Handmade cards, paintings, a beautiful wooden box Robert had crafted. Each represented connection, appreciation, love. She thought about her journey. The decision to leave her old life had been terrifying. The early days of learning had been frustrating. The financial uncertainty had been stressful, but all of it had been worth it. Every difficult moment had led to this, a life of purpose, community, creativity. She also thought about the future. She was 50 now, hopefully with many good years ahead, but she needed to think about succession, about what would happen to the studio when she was ready to step back. Maya was the obvious choice. She was 30 now, fully established, deeply committed to the studio and its values. They discussed it over tea one evening. "I want you to become co-owner," Isabel said. "Not now, necessarily, but gradually over the next few years. The studio should be yours eventually. You've earned it. You'd protect what we've built, while also bringing your own vision." Maya looked overwhelmed. "Are you sure? This is your dream, your creation." "It was my dream," Isabel said, "but it's become bigger than me. It belongs to everyone who's worked here, learned here, been changed here. You're the natural person to carry it forward. You understand what it's for." They worked out a plan. Over the next 5 years, Maya would gradually take on more ownership and decision-making responsibility. Isabel would step back slowly, mentoring Maya through the transition, making sure she was prepared for all aspects of running the studio. "I'm not retiring," Isabel clarified. "I'll keep making pots, keep teaching some classes, but you'll be primary. You'll lead. That's as it should be." As they worked together over the following years, Isabel consciously shared everything she knew, not just pottery techniques, but business management, relationship building, conflict resolution, all the skills she had learned through trial and error. She also told Maya stories about the studio's beginning, about the decision to leave her old career, about the early struggles and triumphs. She wanted Maya to understand the studio's history, its why, so she could maintain its soul even as she shaped its future. Maya proved more than ready. She had ideas for new programs, new partnerships, new ways to serve the community. Isabel encouraged her to experiment, to put her own stamp on the studio, to evolve what had been started. One of Maya's innovations was a scholarship program for young people who wanted to learn pottery but couldn't afford classes. She partnered with the local school to identify interested students and provide free instruction and materials. "This is how you gave me a chance," Maya explained to Isabel, "by apprenticing me for free when I had no money. I want to extend that opportunity to others." Isabel was touched. This was exactly the kind of evolution she hoped for, honoring the original values while adapting to new needs and possibilities. As Isabel moved into her mid-50s, the studio entered a new phase. Maya had fully taken over day-to-day leadership. Isabel still worked and taught, but with more freedom to explore personal projects, to experiment, to travel occasionally, to visit other potters in studios. The scholarship program had grown. Several young potters had come through it, some continuing to work with clay seriously. One, a talented teenager named Aiden, showed exceptional promise and was now apprenticing part-time while finishing high school. The studio had also deepened its community involvement. They donated pottery to fundraisers, offered free classes to seniors, partnered with the library on creative programs. The studio wasn't just a business, it was a community resource, a cultural center. The village itself had transformed. What had been a declining rural town was now a vibrant arts community. Multiple studios and galleries lined the river road. The summer art festival attracted thousands of visitors. Young families were moving in, drawn by the creative atmosphere and beautiful setting. Isabel had been part of this transformation, but she was humble about her role. She had just done her work, followed her path. Others had done the same in their own way. Together, they had created something larger than any individual contribution. One spring afternoon, a young woman came to the studio. She looked familiar somehow. She introduced herself as Rachel, said she had visited the studio 7 years ago as a teenager. "You let me try the wheel," Rachel said. "It was the first time I'd ever worked with clay. I was going through a difficult time, feeling lost and purposeless. But making that simple bowl, feeling the clay take shape under my hands, something shifted in me." She continued, "I went home and found pottery classes. I've been making pottery ever since. I'm in art school now, studying ceramics. I came back to thank you. That one afternoon changed my trajectory." Isabel was deeply moved. She barely remembered the interaction, just one of hundreds of visitors she had welcomed over the years, but it had mattered profoundly to this young woman. "I'm so glad," Isabel said sincerely. "That's what this place is for, helping people discover their connection to clay, to making, to creative work. I'm honored to have been part of your journey." Rachel visited several times that week, working alongside Isabel and Maya, learning from them, sharing her own developing skills. Before she left to return to school, she made a beautiful bowl and gave it to Isabel. "For you," Rachel said, "in thanks. My work is still developing, but I put my whole heart into this piece." Isabel accepted the bowl with gratitude. She placed it on a special shelf in the studio where she kept meaningful objects. It represented the ripple effect, how one small kindness, one moment of sharing could change a life, which then might change other lives in turn. As Isabel looked at that shelf, filled with gifts from students, pieces from collaborative projects, objects with stories, she understood the real legacy of the studio. It wasn't the buildings or the equipment or even the pottery they had made. It was the people whose lives had been touched, who had discovered something about themselves through working with clay. The studio would continue long after she was gone. Maya would run it, then eventually pass it to someone else. Others would work in this space, shape clay at these wheels, fire pieces in these kilns. The specific people would change, but the purpose would remain, helping people connect with clay, with making, with their own creative potential. This knowledge brought Isabel deep peace. Her life had meaning. Her work had impact. She had created something that would outlive her, that would continue serving people long into the future. Years continued to pass. Isabel moved through her 60s, then into her 70s. Her body slowed. Arthritis made long hours at the wheel difficult, but her hands still knew the clay, still could center and shape, still could create beauty. She worked less, made smaller pieces, focused on teaching rather than production. She loved mentoring the newest generation of potters, young people like Aiden, now grown and running his own studio in the city, but also others who came to learn, to be inspired, to find their own path. Maya was in her 50s now, gray showing in her hair, reading glasses perched on her nose. She had run the studio masterfully for 20 years, expanding and evolving while maintaining its essential character. The studio was recognized as one of the premier pottery centers in the region, known for quality work and transformative teaching. New apprentices came and went. Some stayed to become part of the studio permanently. The building had been expanded several times to accommodate growth, more studio space, more kilns, a dedicated teaching area, a small gallery. But the heart remained the same. The river still flowed beside the building, patient and eternal. The clay was still dug from the riverbank, processed, transformed into beautiful, functional objects. The philosophy Ruth had taught Isabel, which Isabel had taught Maya, which Maya taught others, that philosophy of patience, presence, and working with natural materials continued to guide the work. Isabel's own pottery had become quite valuable. Her early pieces, made when she was still learning, sold for high prices to collectors. But her later work, simpler, purer, distilled to essence, was considered her best. Museums had acquired pieces. Critics wrote about her contribution to contemporary ceramics.
But Isabel cared little about such recognition. What mattered to her was that she had lived a good life, had done meaningful work, had helped others discover their own creative potential. The rest was just noise. On her 80th birthday, the studio held a retrospective exhibition of Isabel's work. Pieces from every year of her pottery career were displayed, showing her evolution from beginner to master. Hundreds of people came, former students, fellow potters, collectors, community members. Isabel walked through the exhibition feeling both proud and humbled. These objects represented 32 years of work, thousands of hours at the wheel, countless firings and experiments and failures and successes. Each piece held a memory, a moment, a lesson learned. One piece in particular drew her attention. It was the first bowl she had ever made at Ruth's studio, crude and uneven but full of earnest effort. Maya had borrowed it from Isabel's personal collection for the exhibition. Isabel picked it up, felt its roughness, remembered the evening she had made it, nervous and uncertain, not knowing where this path would lead. That woman seemed like a stranger now, yet also familiar. She was still Isabel, had carried that seeking spirit forward through all the years of growth and learning. An elderly woman approached. It took Isabel a moment to recognize her. Ruth, now 95, frail but still bright-eyed and sharp-minded. "You've had a remarkable journey," Ruth said, gesturing at the exhibition. "From that first awkward bowl to these masterpieces. I'm honored to have been part of it."
"You made it possible," Isabel said. "You taught me the craft, but more importantly, you showed me it was possible to build a life around making. I followed your example." "And now others follow yours," Ruth said. "That's how it works. The chain continues, generation teaching generation, each adding their own contribution while honoring what came before." They stood together, two old potters surrounded by decades of work and memory. Outside, the river flowed as it always had. Inside, young potters worked at wheels, continuing the ancient craft. Isabel understood then, completely and clearly, what her life had been about. She had been a link in a chain stretching back thousands of years to the first humans who shaped clay. She had received knowledge from Ruth and others, had added her own understanding, and had passed it forward to Maya and countless students. The pottery she had made would eventually break or be lost. The buildings would eventually crumble, but the knowledge, the skill, the love of the craft, these would continue, carried forward by people she had taught, who would teach others, who would teach still others, on and on into the future. This was her legacy, not fame or fortune, but this, the continuation of craft, the preservation of beauty, the passing forward of wisdom about working with your hands and honoring materials and finding meaning in creation. Isabel lived to be 87. She worked almost until the end, making small, simple bowls when her arthritic hands could no longer manage complex forms. Her last piece was a pinch pot, like a child might make, but perfect in its simplicity and sincerity. She died peacefully one autumn morning in her small apartment above the studio, with Maya holding her hand. She had lived a good life, full of purpose and meaning and connection.
They scattered her ashes in the river, watching them merge with the water and clay, becoming part of the material she had worked with for so many years. The river carried her downstream, back to the earth, completing the cycle. The studio continued. Maya ran it for another decade before passing leadership to Aiden, who had returned to his home valley to carry on the work. The chain remained unbroken. And still the river flowed, carrying clay from the hills to the valley, renewing itself eternally. And still potters came to that bank, scooped up clay, shaped it into beauty. And still people learned that their hands could create, that working with earth could heal, that a life dedicated to craft could be a life well lived. The Pottery Studio by the river endures, as it always has, as it always will, calling to those who need it, teaching ancient skills, transforming lives one student at a time. Sleep now, dear listener. Let the story of Isabel and the river clay comfort you. Know that it's never too late to change your life, never too late to discover your true calling, never too late to create something beautiful. Rest well. Dream of clay and water, of hands shaping earth, of rivers flowing eternal. Dream of transformation and courage and lives dedicated to craft. All is well. All has always been well. All shall always be well. The river flows on, patient and eternal, carrying wisdom in its waters, clay in its current, possibility in every handful of earth, now and forever. The end that is always beginning. Sweet dreams.
5 years after Maya took over primary leadership, the studio initiated something new, an annual pottery festival. It would celebrate not just riverside pottery, but the craft itself, bringing together potters from across the region for workshops, demonstrations, exhibitions, and community. The idea came from Aiden, who had returned to the valley after running his city studio for several years. He had seen festivals in other places and thought their valley, with its growing arts community, was ready for something similar. We could make it about more than just selling pottery, Aiden explained to Maya and Isabel during a planning meeting. We could make it educational, inspirational, demonstrations of different techniques, talks about the history and philosophy of pottery, workshops for all skill levels. Isabel, now in her mid-60s, loved the idea. When I was beginning, I didn't know pottery communities existed. I thought I was alone in wanting to make this kind of life. A festival could help others discover this path, could bring isolated potters together. They spent months planning. They reached out to potters across the state, inviting them to participate. They organized the village, getting support from local businesses and government. They recruited volunteers to help with logistics. The first clay festival was held on a weekend in early September when the weather was perfect and the valley was at its most beautiful. Over 30 potters came to set up booths. Hundreds of visitors attended, locals, tourists, and serious pottery enthusiasts who traveled specifically for the event. The festival grounds sprawled along the riverbank near the studio. White tents housed potter booths. Demonstration areas showed throwing, hand building, and firing techniques.
A large kiln was built for a community firing project where visitors could make and fire small pieces. Isabel walked through the festival on the first morning amazed. So many potters, so much beautiful work, so many people interested in the craft. She stopped at various booths, talking to makers, admiring their techniques and aesthetics. At one booth, she met a young potter named James, who worked in a style very different from hers. Bold geometric patterns, bright colors, modern forms. But when she asked about his process, she discovered he had been inspired by the documentary about riverside pottery. "I saw that film 5 years ago. I was working in tech, feeling empty. Your story made me realize I could choose differently. I took pottery classes, then quit my job to do this full time. It's been hard, but so rewarding. I wanted to come here to thank you in person for the inspiration." Isabel was moved. This kept happening, people telling her how her story had influenced them. She had never intended to be an inspiration. She had just followed her own path. But apparently, by doing so visibly and successfully, she had lit a way for others.
The festival workshops were popular. Experienced potters taught specialized techniques, raku firing, crystalline glazes, sculptural form making. Isabel taught a workshop on pottery as meditation, not focusing on technical skills, but on using pottery practice as a way to cultivate presence and calm. 20 people attended Isabel's workshop, held in the studio itself. She talked about her journey from stressed accountant to peaceful potter, about what working with clay had taught her about patience and acceptance. Then she had everyone work with clay, but not trying to make anything specific. Just feel the clay, she instructed. Notice its texture, its weight, its temperature. Let your hands move without planning. Don't judge what you're making. Just be present with the material. The room became very quiet as people worked. Isabel could see tension leaving bodies, faces becoming calmer. This was what clay did. It demanded presence. You couldn't worry about tomorrow or regret yesterday while centering clay on a spinning wheel. You had to be here, now, attentive to this moment. After an hour, people shared their experiences. Many had found the practice meditative, calming. One woman said she hadn't felt that peaceful in months. A man said he finally understood why his teenage daughter loved pottery class so much. "This is the real value of pottery," Isabel told the group. "Not just the objects we make, though those are important, but the practice itself, how it changes us, how it teaches us to be present, how it connects us to materials and to ancient traditions. When you work with clay, you're part of a lineage stretching back 10,000 years to the first potter. That's meaningful." The festival was a success. Over the 3-day weekend, thousands of people attended. Potters sold work, made connections, shared knowledge. Community members felt proud of their village, of its creative culture. And many visitors left inspired, some thinking seriously about pottery for the first time. After the festival ended, Maya, Isabel, and Aiden sat exhausted but happy in the studio. They had pulled it off. The festival would become an annual tradition, each year bringing the pottery community together, spreading knowledge and appreciation of the craft. "This is bigger than our studio now," Maya observed. "It's become a movement, a community effort. That's beautiful." Isabel agreed. The studio had been her personal dream initially, her escape from an unsatisfying life. But it had grown into something larger, a center for teaching and community, a hub for artistic practice, a place that served many people in many ways. She felt satisfied. Her work was having impact beyond what she had imagined, and it would continue growing and evolving after she was gone, taking directions she couldn't predict, but trusting in the basic values that had guided it from the beginning. As the studio moved into its second decade, a new generation of potters emerged from its teaching. Young people who had taken classes as children or teenagers were now adults, some pursuing pottery professionally. One was a young woman named Zoe who had attended Isabel's classes as a shy 13-year-old. She was now 23, had studied ceramics in college, and returned to the valley wanting to establish her own practice. "This studio shaped my life," Zoe told Maya when asking about apprenticeship possibilities. "I was awkward and insecure as a teenager. Pottery gave me something I was good at, something that was mine. Isabel encouraged me when no one else did. I want to give that to others now." Maya took Zoe on, seeing in her the same dedication and talent she herself had shown years ago. The cycle continued. Master teaching apprentice, apprentice becoming master, master teaching new apprentices. This was how craft survived and flourished. Zoe brought fresh energy and contemporary sensibilities. She was interested in social media, in online sales, in collaborations with other types of artists. Maya encouraged her to experiment, to find new ways to share pottery with audiences that might not visit physical studios or festivals. Zoe started an Instagram account for the studio, posting beautiful photos of work in progress, finished pieces, the studio space, the river. The account attracted followers from around the world, people fascinated by the pottery life, by the beautiful valley setting, by the philosophy of mindful making. Some followers became customers, ordering pieces online. Others came to visit, making pilgrimages to see the studio in person. The digital presence complemented the physical studio, reaching people who could never visit but could still be part of the community. Isabel watched these developments with interest. She had never been comfortable with social media, with the constant performance and documentation, but she appreciated how Zoe used it, not for self-promotion, but to share process, to teach, to build community across distances. Every generation brings their own tools and approaches, Isabel observed to Maya. We used festivals and workshops. Zoe's generation uses internet and social media. The medium changes, but the purpose remains the same: sharing the craft, building community, helping people discover pottery. The studio also started experimenting with online classes during this period. When a pandemic temporarily closed in-person teaching, Zoe developed virtual workshops. People could purchase class packages that included clay and tools shipped to their homes, then follow along with video instruction. The online classes reached people who could never have come to the Valley, people in other countries, people with disabilities, people in isolated areas. While Isabel preferred in-person teaching, she acknowledged the value of this accessibility. One online student was a woman in her 70s living in a remote area who wrote, "I've wanted to try pottery my whole life, but never had access to classes. Your online workshop finally made it possible. Even at my age, I'm discovering something new. It's given me joy during a difficult time." These stories reminded Isabel why the work mattered. Pottery wasn't just about making objects, it was about offering people a way to be creative, to work with their hands, to experience the satisfaction of making something beautiful and functional. As Isabel moved into her late 60s, she spent less time teaching and more time on personal projects. She was working on a series of large vessels inspired by ancient pottery, simple forms that had been made for thousands of years, but executed with all the skill and understanding she had accumulated. These pieces were more sculptural than functional, more about form and surface than utility, but they maintained her aesthetic, quiet, unshowy, letting the material speak. They showed clay as clay, showing her hand as maker, nothing hidden or falsified. A gallery in the city wanted to show this series. Isabel agreed, though gallery shows had never been her focus. The opening was well attended. Critics praised the work's serene confidence and meditative quality. Several pieces sold for high prices. But the best moment came when a young potter, someone Isabel didn't know, approached her at the opening. "These pieces changed how I think about pottery," the young woman said. "They're so quiet, so unpretentious, yet so powerful. They remind me why I wanted to be a potter, not to make impressive art, but to make honest, beautiful, useful things." This was the recognition that mattered to Isabel. Not critical praise or high prices, but impact on fellow makers, influence that would ripple forward through generations of potters. Isabel was invited to be an artist in residence at a major university for a semester. At first, she was reluctant. She was 68, comfortable in her valley routine. Did she want to uproot herself to spend months in a city teaching college students? But Maya encouraged her. "This is an honor, and you have so much to offer. These students are learning technique, but maybe not philosophy. You can teach them about why pottery matters, about pottery as life practice." Isabel accepted. She arranged to live on campus, would teach 2 classes and give public lectures. Maya would manage the studio in her absence. It would be Isabel's first extended time away from the studio in 15 years. The university was prestigious, its ceramics program well known. The students were talented and serious. But Isabel noticed they were also stressed, anxious, focused intensely on grades and future careers. In her first class,
Isabel had students work with clay without trying to make anything specific. Just play, experiment, feel the material. Many struggled with this lack of direction. "What are we supposed to make?" one student asked. "Nothing in particular," Isabel said. "Just explore. See what happens when you let your hands move without your mind planning everything." Some students found this frustrating. They wanted instruction, specific techniques to master, but others relaxed into it, discovering a playful freedom they had lost somewhere along the way to becoming serious art students. Isabel taught technique too. She was an accomplished potter and had much to share technically, but she always contextualized it within larger questions. Why make pottery? What is pottery for? How does the making process affect the maker? She told stories about her own journey, leaving a career at 38, learning pottery from scratch, building the studio, developing her practice over years. Students were fascinated. Many had assumed pottery would be their career, but hadn't thought deeply about what kind of life that meant. Some of you will become professional potters. Some will do pottery as a serious hobby while working other jobs. Some will leave pottery entirely, but carry what you learned here into other areas of life. All of these are fine. What matters is that you're thoughtful about your choices, that you build a life that aligns with your values. She talked about simple living, about how she had learned to need very little, how that freedom from material demands had allowed her to focus on her craft. This was countercultural to students who had been raised to pursue career success and financial security. One student, a young man named Marcus, came to Isabel's office hours to talk. "I'm supposed to go to graduate school next year," he said. "My parents expected, but I don't know if that's what I want. Your story makes me think I could just make pots, get a small studio somewhere, live simply, do the work I love. Is that naive?" "It's not naive," Isabel said. "It's how many potters live. But it's not easy. You'll have financial challenges. You'll face people who don't understand your choices. You'll have doubt. But if pottery is your calling, if making is what fulfills you, then those challenges are worth it." She continued, "Just be honest with yourself. Don't romanticize it. Being a studio potter is hard work, physically demanding, sometimes lonely, financially uncertain. But if that sounds better than the alternatives, if you can't imagine being happy doing something else, then do it." Marcus decided to take a year after graduation to work in pottery studios and learn the business before committing to graduate school. Isabel connected him with potter friends who might need assistance. She was helping him explore the path thoughtfully, neither discouraging nor mindlessly encouraging. By semester's end, Isabel had made an impact. Students told her she had changed how they thought about art and life. The department chair asked if she would return another semester. Isabel declined. She wanted to go home, but she would stay connected, perhaps teaching occasional workshops. Returning to the valley felt like coming home. Isabel had enjoyed her university time, had learned from the students as they learned from her, but this was where she belonged, by the river, in the studio she had built,
working with clay dug from the local earth. Maya had managed beautifully in her absence. The studio had run smoothly, classes had continued, everything was in good order. Isabel was proud of what Maya had become, a skilled potter, a good teacher, a capable leader. The studio would be fine when Isabel was eventually gone. Isabel entered her 70s. Her body showed age, arthritis in her hands, stiffness in her back, fatigue that came more quickly. But her mind remained sharp, her hands still skillful when she worked at the pace her body could sustain. She made smaller pieces now, working shorter sessions, but the work was perhaps her best, distilled to essence, every form refined through decades of practice. A single small bowl could embody everything she had learned about pottery, about life, about attention and care. The studio celebrated its 20th anniversary. 20 years since Isabel had bought the building, 15 years since Maya had joined, a decade since the first clay festival. They had accomplished much, influenced many lives, helped revitalize their valley. The anniversary celebration was a multi-day event. Former students came from across the country. Potters Isabel had mentored brought their work to display. The documentary filmmaker David returned to make a short follow-up film about the studio's evolution. Ruth had died 2 years earlier at 97. Her memory was honored at the celebration. Many people spoke about how Ruth had influenced them, how her teaching had spread through Isabel and her students, reaching people who had never met Ruth but benefited from her wisdom passed down through generations. One speaker was James, the young man who had been inspired by the documentary years earlier. He was now an established potter with his own studio and students. "I trace my pottery lineage back through Isabel to Ruth," James said. "I never met Ruth, but her understanding of pottery as spiritual practice, as life practice, came to me through Isabel's teaching and example. Now I pass it to my own students. The chain continues. The wisdom flows forward." This moved Isabel deeply. She understood then that her contribution wasn't just the pottery she had made, the students she had directly taught. It was being a link in a chain of teaching that stretched back generations and would stretch forward for generations to come. Ruth had taught her. She had taught Maya, Aiden, Zoe, and many others. They were teaching their own students. Wisdom was propagating, multiplying, spreading far beyond what any individual could do alone. At the celebration, Isabel was given a Lifetime Achievement Award from the Regional Craft Council. In her acceptance speech, she said, "I don't feel like I've achieved anything special. I just found work I loved and did it for 20 years. I tried to help others discover what I discovered, that working with your hands, making beautiful, functional objects, living simply and purposefully, these things bring deep satisfaction. If I've contributed anything, it's showing that it's possible to change your life, even when you're no longer young. I started pottery at 38. I opened this studio at 40. I became a teacher at 42. It's never too late to follow your real calling. Thank you to everyone who's been part of this journey. To Ruth, who taught me, to Maya, who partners with me, to all the students who've trusted me to teach them, to this community that's supported the studio, and to the river and the clay which called me here and have sustained me ever since. The celebration ended, but Isabel felt its warmth for weeks after. She had built something meaningful. She had lived a good life, a purposeful life. She had few regrets. She continued working, teaching occasionally, spending long, quiet hours in the studio making small, perfect vessels. She was working toward something, though she wasn't sure what. Perhaps toward a final series. Perhaps toward understanding she couldn't yet articulate. One afternoon, working with clay from the river, Isabel had a moment of perfect clarity. The clay centered perfectly under her hands. She pulled up walls that were even and true. She shaped a small bowl that was exactly what she had envisioned. Nothing forced, nothing struggled with, just natural flow from intention through hands to material to form. This was what she had been working toward for over 20 years. This ease, this fluency, this effortless skill that looked simple but represented thousands of hours of practice. Mastery wasn't about making impressive things. It was about making simple things well, consistently, without struggle. Isabel finished the bowl and set it aside to dry. She sat back and looked at her hands. Old hands now, wrinkled and spotted, knuckles swollen with arthritis, but skilled hands, hands that knew clay intimately, hands that could still create beauty. She felt grateful. Her body was aging, but it had served her well. It had learned this craft, had practiced it faithfully, had made thousands of pots over the years. She honored her body, thanked it silently for its service.
She would keep working as long as she could. When she could no longer make pottery, she would teach. When she could no longer teach, she would simply be present in the studio, a living link to the past, a reminder of dedication and purpose. But that time wasn't yet. She still had work to do, pots to make, wisdom to share. The river flowed outside, patient and eternal. The clay waited, ready to be shaped. The wheel stood ready, and Isabel's hands, old but skilled, were ready to create. Isabel worked into her late 70s. The arthritis worsened, but she managed it, working shorter periods with frequent breaks. She focused on her personal practice now, letting Maya handle teaching and studio management. The studio had grown beyond her, which was good and right. They had opened a second building on the property, expanding teaching space and adding a gallery. Multiple potters worked there now, each with their own style and students. The studio had become a collective, a community of makers supporting each other. Aiden had taken over as kiln master, managing the complex firing schedules. Zoe was education director, coordinating classes and workshops. Maya remained overall director, making sure everything ran smoothly. Isabel was artist in residence, honored elder, keeper of memory and philosophy. Young potters would come to sit with Isabel, to hear stories about the studio's early days, to ask advice about their own practices. She welcomed them all, shared freely, encouraged their development. One young potter named River asked Isabel what advice she would give to someone starting out. Isabel thought carefully before answering. First, commit to the practice, not to outcomes. Fall in love with the process of working with clay, not with being recognized or successful. The work itself has to be enough. Second, be patient. Mastery takes years, decades. Don't rush. Trust that consistent practice compounds over time. Third, stay humble. The clay will always teach you if you let it. The best potters remain students their whole lives. Fourth, share what you learn. Teaching deepens your own understanding. Generosity creates community. And finally, remember why you're doing this. Not for money or fame, but because making beautiful, useful objects brings meaning to your life and joy to others. Keep that purpose clear. River wrote down Isabel's words, thanked her for the wisdom. Isabel watched River return to work at the wheel and saw herself decades earlier, eager, uncertain, full of potential. The cycle continued. She had been River once. River would perhaps become Maya someday. Maya would eventually become the elder, passing wisdom to the next generation. This was how craft survived, how knowledge flowed forward through time. Isabel still made pottery, but very slowly now. Each piece took days or weeks. Her hands couldn't work for long periods, but what she made was exceptional. Distilled essence, pure form, nothing unnecessary. A prestigious gallery asked to represent her work, to mount a major exhibition. Isabel agreed, knowing this might be her last major show. She spent a year creating pieces specifically for the exhibition, a series exploring water, inspired by her years living by the river. The vessels were simple and perfect. Some were blue like deep water. Some were white like foam. Some had surface patterns suggesting ripples and currents. All were quiet, contemplative, requiring slow looking to appreciate fully. The exhibition was titled River Songs, 25 Years Working with Water and Clay. The opening was emotional. Isabel was now 79, aware this might be her final public presentation of work. Critics called it her masterpiece, the culmination of decades of practice. But for Isabel, each piece was simply what she had been trying to make all along. Honest pottery that showed the hand of the maker, that honored the material, that brought beauty into functional form. At the opening, she overheard two young potters discussing her work. "This is what I want to achieve eventually," one said. "This quietness, this confidence, this refinement." "It takes a lifetime," the other responded. "That's what these pieces show, not just skill, but a lifetime of dedication. You can't fake that. You can only earn it through years of work."
Isabel smiled. They understood. That was enough. The pieces sold quickly to collectors and museums. The gallery wanted more, but Isabel knew her productive years were ending. She would make a few more pieces, small ones, before her hands could no longer manage the work. She spent the following winter making her final series, 10 small tea bowls. Simple, perfect, each slightly different. She poured everything she knew into them, all her skill, all her understanding, all her love for the craft. When they came out of the final firing, Isabel held each one carefully, examining them in sunlight. They were exactly what she had intended: modest, beautiful, honest. Anyone could use them, could hold them, could appreciate them. She kept one for herself. The other 9 were displayed in the studio gallery with a note: Isabel Morrison, Final Series. These tea bowls represent 25 years of practice and a lifetime of learning. May they bring joy to those who use them. They sold within days. People wanted pieces from Isabel's final series, wanted to own something from this chapter's end. The bowls went to careful homes, to people who would treasure and use them. Isabel was satisfied. Her work was done. She had made thousands of pieces over 25 years. Some were in museums, most were in homes being used daily. They would outlast her, carrying her intention and care forward into the future. Isabel died peacefully at 83. She had lived in the studio until the end, looking out at the river every day, keeping her hands in clay as long as possible. Maya was with her when she died, along with Aiden and Zoe. They held her hands and told her the studio would continue, her teaching would continue. Everything she had built would be protected. They scattered her ashes in the river as she had requested. The river carried them downstream, merging with water and clay, becoming part of the landscape she had loved and worked with for 25 years. The studio continued, of course. Maya ran it for another 15 years before passing leadership to Zoe. Zoe ran it for 20 years before passing it to River. Generation after generation, the studio remained, teaching pottery, building community, honoring the philosophy Isabel had established. The building was expanded and improved, but never fundamentally changed. The main studio space where Isabel had worked, where she had taught hundreds of students, was preserved. Her wheel remained there, kept in working condition but reserved for special occasions. Each new generation added their own innovations while maintaining core values. The studio evolved with technology and culture, but never forgot its purpose: helping people discover the satisfaction of working with clay, of making beautiful, useful objects with their own hands. Isabel's story was told to every new student: how she had walked away from a career at 38, how she had taught herself pottery, how she had restored the building, started the studio, built a life of purpose and meaning around making. She became a legend, an inspiration, a reminder that it's never too late to change your life. The annual Clay Festival grew into a major regional event, attracting potters and enthusiasts from across the country. It was always held near the river, near the studio, honoring the place where Isabel had first picked up river clay and felt it call to her. The documentary David had made was shown repeatedly, inspiring countless people to explore pottery. The university where Isabel had taught established a scholarship in her name for students interested in pottery as life practice, not just art career. Her pottery became increasingly valuable. Museums added her pieces to permanent collections. Collectors sought her work. But most of her thousands of pieces remained in daily use in regular homes, bowls holding fruit, cups holding coffee, plates serving meals. She would have loved that, her work living in the world, being used, bringing quiet beauty to ordinary moments. The river continued its eternal flow, wearing away rock, depositing clay, shaping the land as it had for millions of years. And people continued coming to its banks to dig clay, to feel its cool weight in their hands, to shape it into vessels and sculptures and useful objects. Some came because they had heard Isabel's story. Some came knowing nothing of her, but feeling the same call she had felt. The river didn't care why people came. It just offered its clay freely, patiently, eternally. And in the studio by the river, potters still work. Wheels still spin. Clay still centers under skilled hands. Kilns still fire pieces through heat and transformation. Teachers still share knowledge with eager students. And the chain continues, unbroken, flowing forward like the river itself. This is Isabel's legacy. Not fame or fortune, but this, a place where people can learn to work with clay, can discover the satisfaction of making, can find meaning in simple creative practice, a place that honors ancient craft while remaining relevant to contemporary life, a place that transforms people, one student at a time, as Isabel herself was transformed.
The pottery studio by the river end endures, calling to those who need it, teaching those who come, sending them out changed, better, more complete. As long as there is river and clay, as long as there are human hands to shape earth into beauty, the work continues. Sleep now, dear listener. Let the story of Isabel and the river clay comfort you. Know that transformation is possible at any age, that meaningful work awaits those brave enough to seek it, that a life dedicated to craft and beauty is a life well lived. Rest well. Dream of clay and water, of wheels spinning and hands shaping, of simple bowls holding light. Dream of rivers flowing eternal, carrying possibilities in their currents. All is well. All has always been well. All shall always be well. The river flows on, patient teacher, generous provider, eternal presence. And beside it, the studio stands, home to makers, sanctuary for seekers, place where earth becomes art through patient human hands, now and forever. The end that is no end, the river that is always beginning. Sweet dreams. Years after Isabel's death, a young woman named Clara walked along a riverbank. She was 35 years old, worked in corporate consulting,
felt empty despite her success. She had everything society said she should want, yet she felt nothing. Clara had taken a day to escape the city, to think, to breathe. She found herself by a river in a valley she had never visited before. The landscape was beautiful, gentle hills, flowering meadows, willows hanging over clear water. As she walked, she noticed a building ahead, stone and wood, beautifully maintained, windows glowing with warm light even in afternoon. A sign read, "Riverside Pottery Studio, visitors welcome." Something about the building called to her. Clara left the path and walked closer. Through the windows, she could see people working at pottery wheels, hands shaping clay. It looked peaceful, meditative, real in a way her corporate work never felt. She opened the door and stepped inside. The studio was warm and smelled of earth and minerals. Several potters worked quietly at their wheels. Shelves held beautiful pottery, simple forms in natural colors. Classical music played softly. A woman looked up from her work and smiled. She was perhaps 40, with kind eyes and clay-stained hands. "Welcome," she said. "I'm River. Are you interested in pottery?" "I don't know," I admitted. "I was just walking and saw your studio. Can I look around?" "Of course," River said. "Take your time. If you have questions, just ask." Clara wandered slowly through the space. She watched a young man throwing a bowl, his hands moving with practiced confidence. She observed an elderly person trimming the base of a vase with careful attention. She examined the finished pieces on display, running her fingers over their smooth surfaces. Something about the place felt important, though Clara couldn't say why. It reminded her of something she had forgotten, some possibility she had stopped believing in. River came over. "Would you like to try?" she asked gently. "We have an introductory workshop starting in 10 minutes. Just a 1-hour session where you can play with clay, see if you like it." Clara hesitated. She had a long drive back to the city. She had work tomorrow. She should go, but something made her say yes. The workshop was small, just 4 people. River showed them basic hand-building techniques. She gave each person a lump of clay and encouraged them to explore, to make whatever called to them. Clara pressed her hands into the cool clay. It was heavy and smooth, substantial. She began shaping it without thinking, rolling, pressing, forming. She made a simple bowl, crude but sincere. As she worked, something shifted in Clara. Her mind grew quiet. The constant chatter of thoughts and worries faded. She was just here, hands in clay, present in this moment. It felt like coming home to a place she had never been. After the workshop, Clara lingered. She talked to River about the studio, its history. River told her about Isabel, the woman who had founded it 30 years earlier, about how Isabel had left her own corporate career, had taught herself pottery, had built this place and this community. Is that true? Someone really did that? Left everything to do pottery? Yes, said River. I never met Isabel. She died before I came here, but her story is part of this place. She showed that it's possible to change your life, even when you're not young anymore. She was almost 40 when she started. She had no experience, just determination and love for the craft. Clara felt something stir in her chest. Hope, maybe, or recognition.
"Do you offer longer classes?" she asked. "I mean, I live in the city, it's an hour away, but maybe I could come on weekends?" "We have weekend classes, and if you get really interested, we have intensive week-long workshops. Some people even apprentice here for months or years." Clara signed up for weekend classes starting the following Saturday. Driving home that evening, she felt different, lighter, like she had discovered a door she hadn't known existed, a door that might lead somewhere important. Over the following months, Clara came to the studio every weekend. She learned to center clay, to throw bowls and cups, to trim and glaze. She was terrible at first, but improved steadily. More importantly, she discovered she loved it. Working with clay gave Clara something her corporate job never had: tangible results, immediate feedback, a process that engaged her hands and heart as well as her mind. She found herself thinking about pottery during the work week, impatient for Saturday when she could return to the studio. After 6 months, Clara made a decision. She would quit her job. She would take a year to focus seriously on pottery. She had savings. She could afford a year of exploring this path before having to worry about money.
Her coworkers thought she was crazy. Her family worried. But Clara felt calm and certain. She was following in Isabel's footsteps, though she had never met the woman. She was answering the same call Isabel had answered, making the same brave choice. River encouraged her. "Isabel's story has inspired so many people over the years," she said. "You're not alone in making this choice. Others have done it, have built meaningful lives around pottery. You can too." Clara arranged to apprentice at the studio for 6 months. She would work there full-time, learning intensively, discovering if this could truly be her life's work. The apprenticeship transformed her. Working with clay every day, surrounded by committed makers, living simply in a small room in the village, it was exactly what she needed. The corporate stress dissolved, her anxiety faded. She became calmer, more present, more herself. By the end of 6 months, Clara knew this was her path. She would become a potter. She would find her own way to make it work financially, selling work, teaching, maybe doing some consulting part-time initially. But pottery would be her center, her foundation, her primary identity. River watched Clara's development with satisfaction. This was why the studio existed, to provide space for transformations like this, to help people discover their true work, to keep Isabel's legacy alive. "Isabel would have loved meeting you," River told Clara. "You remind me of stories I've heard about her. That same determination, that same willingness to risk everything for meaningful work. I wish I could thank her. Her story gave me courage. Knowing she did it, that she succeeded, made me believe I could too." "Thank her by living well," River said, "by doing good work, by perhaps inspiring someone else someday. That's how her legacy continues, through people like you carrying it forward." Clara understood. She was part of a lineage now. Isabel to Maya, to Zoe, to River, to her. Each generation learning from the previous, adding their own contribution, passing wisdom forward. It was ancient and powerful, this passing of knowledge from teacher to student, this chain of craft extending back thousands of years. She looked around the studio, the wheels, the kilns, the shelves of pottery, the windows overlooking the river. Isabel had started all this. One woman's decision to change her life had created this place, had influenced hundreds or thousands of people over 3 decades. What would Clara create? What would her contribution be? She didn't know yet, but she was committed to finding out, to pursuing this path wherever it led. The river flowed outside, carrying clay from the hills to the valley, renewing itself eternally. And in the studio beside it, Clara centered clay on her wheel, hands confident now, knowing this was right, knowing she was home. Isabel's legacy lived on, not just in pottery pieces preserved in museums, not just in the building and studio she had created, but in people like Clara, in every person who found courage to change their life, who discovered satisfaction in working with hands and heart, who learned that meaning comes not from status or wealth, but from work aligned with values and purpose. The chain continues, the river flows, the clay calls, and those who hear it answer, each in their own time, each in their own way, all part of the same eternal story of human hands shaping earth into beauty.
Sleep now, dear listener. Let this final reflection comfort you. Know that it is never too late, that change is always possible, that your own transformation awaits when you're ready to answer the call. Rest peacefully. Dream of clay and wheels and rivers. Dream of hands making beauty. Dream of lives transformed through courage and craft. All is well. The story continues. The possibility remains. Now and always and forever. Sweet dreams.